How has your children's love made you a better person?
That's a hard one. Just knowing that they love me, and would do anything within reason for me. I couldn't even answer it any better. I mean that, I love them and I know they love me. Unconditional love.
Oh yeah. How did Grandpa's love
Oh my God.
change you as a person?
Ugh. His whole life was love. I heard from when he was on the police department. Remember when one of the young cops saying, well, he was not young, saying to me, Mrs. O'Shea, working with your husband, a couple of us thought he should have been a priest. He was a fantastic man. But everybody that knew him said the same thing. And I go back to any of his old friends, Joe Leonard, some of them are alive. They can't say enough about him. And he was just kind, generous, never gotten any. You can imagine he was on the police department 30 years and never used his gun. Never shot his gun. I think that's something to be. And that's what, when he retired, they said that. And I thought that was something to say.
Absolutely.
That you never, ever used your gun. To be on the police department that long. Yeah. I mean, if he had to, he would have, but thank God nobody got in his way and did him any harm.
Did you guys ever have any blowout fights? You said you never fought before, and I was like, how?
No. John, if I got angry about something, he'd walk away from me.
He'd walk away.
He'd walk away.
That's where the Irish exit came out of. I remember him saying that. That was the Irish exit.
He'd walk away.
He'd just walk away.
Yeah. He would. No confrontations with John.
Yeah.
But he had great patience with his children. Oh my God, he had great patience.
Did he?
Oh. I don't really remember. I can't remember. I never saw him go after my children and beat any of them. I've heard him scold them.
Yeah.
He punished them. Not bad, never severe, but but that was his nature though.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with this. That's the way he was. Any neighbors that knew him when he was a kid said he was so easygoing,
Now when he passed away, how old were you?
I was still kind of young. How long is he dead now?
I don't know. It was when I was in high school, right?
I'd say it was probably, I don't know. I'd have to try to think about that, and I just can't get this in my head. I know I was young.
Yeah.
Because Eileen was young. I think Eileen was only 7 or 8 years old when John passed away.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think she was quite young. I'm positive she was. I never sat down and thought about these things,
Yeah, I never did either.
No, but I felt he was young when he passed away.
Yeah.
As far as but.
Definitely. Well, we got it, girlfriend. I think we're good with the questions for this.
Do you want a sandwich or something, man?
Oh, no, I'm good.
No?
No, are you okay?
Oh, I'm fine. There were donuts there, too, if you want to take
Oh, no, I'll get some donuts.
Oh, okay.
Bad Matt will come out later. Let me make sure we're recording and all that kind of stuff is all good. Make sure we did all this right.
You've been recording this all this time?
Oh, it's been recording the whole time.
I didn't know. I just saw it was sitting there.
Oh, yeah. Who had the greatest impact on your life? What would you guess? What would you say?
I think my father.
Yeah? How would you say that?
He was very, very, very... My mother was good too, don't get me wrong. But he had the patience of a saint. He never lost his temper with me in my entire life. He was kind. He's always smiling. You never saw Jim Doris that he wasn't smiling. He was good to everybody. Everybody. It was just his nature. So I think he had the most
impact.
Yes, yeah. And he died in church.
Is that right?
He sure did.
Wow.
Came down from communion and died.
Wow. How old was he?
He wasn't old. He wasn't even 60, I don't think. My father died very young.
How old were you?
Let me think how old I was. 23, 40. I was just, I wasn't married too long. I was young. I was
Okay.
still in my 20s, but I don't know exactly what age.
So you were young.
It's too long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you could ask him one question, what would it be? Now that he's passed, what would you ask us since it's been so long ago?
I tell him what a wonderful father he was. I would he was everything a person would want. Not only as my father, but as a man.
Yeah.
To me, I looked up to him every way you could think of. And I think I married a man that was very much like my father. I mean, John had a lot of traits my father had, I saw in John.
Yeah. So now tell me about how you met Grandpa. I
Oh.
love that story.
Oh.
Here, let me shut the door just because I like this one.
That's all right.
This was a good one.
Oh. There was a relative in the family, her name was Agnes Gallagher.
Uh-huh.
And apparently, she came out from Ireland with Grandpa, your grandfather's mother. And Grandpa, my husband, was a quiet man, you know, and he was apparently a very good son. And of course, you know, you'd hear about, well, Johnny O'Shea, Johnny O'Shea. And that would be, I guess it was quite a few years ago, when I started to, that was about 17 or 18, because I know I was married, I was exactly 20, so maybe I was 18, because I didn't go with Grandpa long anyway, before I married. But, what can I say? It was, you know, I met him down in Rockaway. I was down there, and I'd heard about him through his mother and a relative of my mother's. So I went down there with some girls, and I had heard about John O'Shea. So at those years, the sergeants dispersed the policemen. So when we got down there near there, he was the sergeant, and he had about 4 or 5 policemen. And of course, it was during the summer, it was Rockaway, it was very, very lively. So I was with other girls, and we kind of stood back, and we watched this young, well, I guess it looked pretty young, I don't know, talk to these young cops, and the next thing, you know, they dispersed. So finally, after they did, I went over, and there was a young cop standing there by himself, and he says, "Officer, the sergeant was just talking to some of you fellows. Which one was John O'Shea?" And he says, "I'm John O'Shea." I nearly died, because in those days, women were not outgoing, and I really wasn't. So then I was kind of stuttering. I remember that, because the girls were all laughing behind my back, and I said, "Well, the reason I inquired about him, my aunt came from Ireland with his mother." So he said, "Who's your aunt?" I said, "Agnes Gallagher." "Oh yes, yeah. So we started to talk, and he said to me, we talked for a while, and then he had to go. He said, "Listen, what are you doing tonight?" I said, "Really nothing, I'm with the girls." He said, I get off duty at 4 to 12. And I was down there with girls staying in a house.
Yeah.
At 4 to 12. He said, "Suppose we go out and have a beer." I said, "Well, all right." That was July, sort of the end of July. And I was married at January. That's how fast the road, yep. July, August, September, October, November, 6 months is all I knew.
Wow.
And we lived very happy.
Now, was it love at first sight?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. No sex, but lots of love. My day, that was out. Oh my God.
Nothing to your honeymoon, or?
That's right. Absolutely. That just wasn't in those days.
Yeah.
Especially if you brought up Roman Catholic. Holy Mary. Jesus, they'd have you in hell.
Now, he was Roman Catholic the whole way?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. I think the whole time he was married, I don't think he ever missed mass.
Is that right?
Yeah. And yet, he did not go to Catholic school. John went to public schools.
Did he?
Well, there were no Catholic schools near where he was.
Yeah.
And yet, he was a very, very good, not a crazy, a good Catholic, went to mass, abided by the rules of the church.
Yeah.
And just a good man, but I think that would have been him anyway, whether he was Catholic or Protestant or anything else. Just a good man, that's all I can say.
Now, growing up, I could never. Did you guys get into arguments?
Very little.
Yeah.
I could have been argumentative, but he'd walk away from me. In fact, one time I had to go to the doctor's, and my blood pressure was kind of high, and I must have acted too. He says, "Do you and your husband ever fight?" I said, "No, my husband wouldn't fight with me." He says, "Well, I think a good fight would do you good."
Yeah, because you can keep it bottled up, huh?
Yeah, but he would. John never gave me any reason to fight. He was a very, very, very easygoing man.
Yeah.
I could count on less than one thing how many fights we had in the time we were married. That's how few.
Is that right?
He just wasn't a fighter. He
Yeah.
wouldn't give me anything to fight about. When you were a fighter, I mean, I was mostly with the kids because he always had 2 jobs.
Yeah.
You know, he
Yeah.
had to with all the kids.
Yeah.
And
Was it hard growing up? Like, was it hard raising the 9 kids? Or 10,
I was young
actually?
myself. I was young myself. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And when he was around, we needed the money.
Yeah.
And he worked for his cousin, who owned a liquor store in Floral Park.
Is that who it was? I didn't know if that was...
Huey and Kay Mulholland. It was John's mother's sister's daughter. They owned this liquor store.
Yeah.
So, and of course, I was glad to have John because he was very honest.
Yeah.
And it was extra money coming in,
Oh, absolutely.
you know? But it wasn't a lot of money.
Yeah.
But in those days, you couldn't do it today,
Yeah.
you know? And he'd always do good around the holidays. He'd make deliveries of liquor for people when they ordered like a case of
Oh, yeah.
booze of some kind, you know?
Yeah.
But he always worked. He always had a job. Another time, now he drove a taxi cab in Manhattan.
Did he really?
Yep.
And the cop? And
He was still on the cops, but to make extra money.
yeah.
And then it was a taxi cab, and then somebody got him a job another time while he was still at the meat market down in Brooklyn.
No way.
Yeah. Well, like
I mean,
said,
I can't believe he worked all those jobs.
yeah, he always worked.
And they worked at the Concorde. He worked at British Airways.
Oh yeah, that was his job after he retired from the
Yeah.
cops.
Hi, Dad.
What are you doing?